The Laguna Woods Yacht Club is dedicated to joy and skills of sailing. We are at the Dana Point Harbor with the members of the Yacht Club who are going to talk to us about the membership and a very exciting opportunity that they have coming up with the Newport to Ensenada race. I'm with Jan Badgley, who's the staff commodore with the Laguna Woods Yacht Club, who's going to give us some insight about the upcoming race, the Newport to Ensenada. Well, thank you for having us out here. It's a gorgeous day.
It is beautiful. And a nice breeze. It should be good to go out sailing later.
I know, which we're going to do. So tell me a little bit about, real quickly, how the Yacht Club came about.
Well, in 2006, the Laguna Woods Yacht Club had its first Commodore, Charlie Bengal, and there were a group of sailors. And in 2007, we had our first entrance into the Ensenada yacht race. And the comedy was that the 4 people involved were the Commodore, the Vice Commodore, and 2 other members. And the boat they were going on was not very old, but they totaled almost 300 years together, all 4 of them. And they were excited because there was an ancient mariner division, and they thought, oh, we qualify. Come to find out that you had to have a boat older than 1939, so they were disappointed. And they did go and completed it, and that was the year that half of the fleet turned around because there was basically no wind.
Oh gosh, my gosh. Yeah. And then how many members do you have now?
About 116.
Okay.
So it grows as the summer comes on.
Well, and I know you're looking for new members. Tell us a little bit about some of the things that they can do as a member.
We have trips to Catalina and Oceanside. We have monthly cocktail parties. We have picnics, and we have a great social calendar. And of course, the boat hiatus goes out 5 or 6 days a week, as well as the boat that we're taking on the Ensenada race, La Chasse.
Right. Now, let's talk a little bit about, you're a 501c3, so you do fundraising, and where does the money usually go to?
It goes to support the boat. The berthing is expensive, and there has to be painting and annual maintenance. There's always something breaking and being repaired and updated on a boat. Boats are very expensive investments, but we like that we can share it with all the members. The members are, in effect, the reason that there's a club.
Right, exactly. Now, just so you know, Jan is going to be the only woman on a crew of 5 that's going to be in the Newport to Ensenada. Are you intimidated or are they intimidated?
I hope neither. I've sailed the whole coast of California. I've owned a boat before, and I've been sailing since 1973, so I feel confident I'll be down in the galley probably making sandwiches.
No, I'm sure you have other skills. Tell me about some of the skills that you need to be on this boat.
A good sense of balance helps.
Okay.
No, we go out sailing all the time. What do you need to sail? Enthusiasm. We see lots of marine life. Some of the skills are, using the sheets and the equipment and making sure you stay on board, don't fall over.
Well, she makes it sound so easy, but I think we're going to see that it's not as easy as you make it sound, because there are some definite things that you really have to be careful about and other things that we'll talk to Lloyd about later. Anything I've missed?
No, I think we're good.
Okay, excellent. And we'll come up with talking to Lloyd.
Oh, you know what I did?
Oh, wait, she found something else.
I did forget to say, because we are a California beneficial nonprofit corporation and our club is for people 55 years and above, that we accept gratefully donations to help support the club. So if you need a tax benefit or you want to do an endowment, we are here and available.
Okay. All right. We'll be right back after this. I have Jim Updike, who is the treasurer for the Laguna Woods Yacht Club, and he's going to tell us a little bit about the 22 times that he has already sailed this Newport to Ensenada. That's a lot of times.
That's a lot of times, but it's such a fun race, and people, the camaraderie, the people that participate in it. The race hit a high point back in the 1980s where there were 600 boats in the race. This year so far we have, there's about 180, so it's come down a bit, but it's still a lot of fun.
So tell me a little bit about some of the people that are in the race. I know you mentioned somebody very famous.
Oh yes, Roy Disney, for example, has a boat called Pie Wacket. He's done the race, I think, just about every year. Dennis Connors, I think, is going to be in the race this year. He does it periodically. So the racing, yachting community, this is a big deal for the people in Southern California. This race has been going on since 1947, and everybody loves to do this race.
So it's been 10 years since the Laguna Woods Yacht Club has participated. What do you anticipate differently this time?
I don't know that we anticipate anything totally different this time. When you do the race, you pray that you're going to have pretty good wind, and some years you do, some years you don't. So I don't anticipate that there's going to be a whole lot of differences this year.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about how the race works briefly, where I know we were talking about how you line up and where it starts and how it ends and that kind of thing. If you just give us a quick overview.
Sure. The race starts off Newport Pier. There are two start lines. They usually start 20 boats at a time on these two start lines, and the starts begin around noon on Friday, the 27th. Every 10 minutes they'll start boats. Then you sail all the way down to Ensenada. If you draw an actual line from the start to the finish, it's about 125 miles. The finish is just off the Ensenada Harbor, over by the Hotel Corral. The race, one of the things that people say about the race is that it's won at night, because the wind tends to shift around a lot, tends to shut off usually. So that's when you have to work the hardest, changing sails and making sure that you keep the boat moving.
Right. So how do you guys actually practice for this?
Well, I think just about everybody on board has been sailing for years and years. And some of us have been doing a lot of racing over the years. So it's not necessarily a question of actually practicing. We've gone out a number of times as a team to be able to know that we can set the kinds of sails that we want to set, make sure that we know all of the safety equipment that's on board the boat. So that's about it.
Okay. Now, I know there's something brand new that you guys are going to have on the boat for this race. It's called the YB tracking system. So tell me a little bit about how that works and why the residents of Laguna Woods are going to be interested in that.
Well, this is a system that's actually been in place now for a number of years, but it's been in place for races like the Transpac race, for example, that goes from Long Beach to Honolulu, 2,000 miles. So this will be the first year that NOSA, the organizing authority, is going to put these tractors on every boat. It's a free website that people will be able to go to. You can actually go to a menu that's on the left side of the web page, look for the name of a boat, or you can filter it down to the class that the boats are starting in, and you can actually track the boat all the way down to the end of the race.
Okay. Well, that's great, and we'll have that information for you guys at the end of our episode here. But very exciting stuff.
It is.
You've got 5 people, and they're all going to be running around in a very small space together.
That's right. We better get really friendly.
I bet, for a long period of time. What approximately how long does it take?
It depends on the wind. You have to finish the race. The race is officially over with on Sunday morning at 11:30. So if you haven't finished by then, typically boats will finish probably from about noon on Saturday to Saturday night. But again, it depends on the wind.
Okay. You mean like Sunday night?
Saturday night.
So Saturday night. Okay.
Saturday night. Sunday morning at 11:30, the race is officially over. So if you haven't finished by then, you might as well just go home.
Okay. Which they probably will because they're so tired.
Probably will, yes.
All right. Did I miss anything? Anything you'd like to?
So.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
I have the Commodore of the Laguna Woods Yacht Club with us, Lloyd Chase, who owns the boat behind me called La Chasse. Is that correct?
La Chasse.
Oh, La Chasse. Okay, I said that incorrectly. Well, what does it mean?
It means the hunt in French.
Oh, the hunt.
The hunt.
The hunt for what?
The hunt for anything, whatever you're hunting for.
Fishing, the hunt for a trophy.
A hunt for other boats and trophies and whatever's out there.
Well, it sounds exciting. How long have you been a sailor? Would I correctly say it that way?
I've been sailing for 56 years.
Wow, that's a long time.
A long time. I started out in smaller boats and gradually moved up to this boat. I've owned it for 20 years and turned every screw and nut on it. So
Yeah, he said he knows every nook and cranny on this boat, which we're happy about because we're going to be on it. Tell me a little bit about the boat you have.
Well, it's a Catalina 30. It's a very popular boat. About 5,000 or 6,000 of them were built in previous decades. It's not made anymore, but there still are an awful lot of them sailing and a lot of them on this dock that race periodically here. And I've owned this one for 20 years and I've had a great time cruising it. It's a wonderful boat for a small family.
Now, is this the first time that you've been in this kind of race?
No, I've been in races before, but not in this boat. This boat was set up for cruising. I've raced on Catalina 30s, on Newport 30s, and smaller boats. Usually other people's boats. Sometimes I skippered them, sometimes I was the crew. But I raced for many years in my own boat. It was called a Thistle, a smaller boat. And I could say a little bit more about races if you're interested, how they vary. And this is a typical one that's called point to point, where you go from one point to another. A lot of races in smaller boats are done around a course with buoys, around the buoys racing. It's really quite a different type of race.
Well, let's look at the chart you have here because you said point to point, and
Point to point.
so tell me what you mean.
Here's a shot of the course. Starting up here in Newport, you pass Dana Point, where my boat is here, this little green thing. You pass San Diego. You make a little turn here in north of Todos Santos Bay, and the finish line will be down here, right off Ensenada. So it's a 125-mile race. And in principle, if you can maintain a speed like 5 knots, which is not uncommon, you could finish in 24 hours. We'll be lucky if we do that. Now, one of the things about our class is that we are in the Jenniker Cruise class, as it's called, and we're allowed to use the engine from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., 8 p.m. to 8 a.m., pardon me, but we take a time penalty for that. So one of the things we'll have to think about is, do we do that? And if the wind is very weak, we might do that. So that's our special class. But the other thing about it, I might say, is that there are 16 boats in our class, the starting. And none of them are anything like a Catalina 30. And you wonder, how are we going to decide who wins when they all have different boat speeds?
Right.
If I'm against a boat that's twice the length of mine, for example, a 60-footer, their hull speed is 41% larger than mine because it goes as a square root of the hull length. And all that is taken care of with a handicap. That's called a PHRF rating.
Okay.
That's Performance Handicap Racing Fleet. And it's determined by years of experience in boats racing against each other in various wind conditions.
Okay.
So, for example, our PHRF rating is going to be 214. So I'm racing against a boat with a rating of 200. What that means is that he has to beat me by over 14 seconds a mile to win.
Okay.
So that's how the handicap works.
Okay, so like golf, but way more complicated.
Well, it's like golf.
I know, if you have a handicap, that's a good thing, right?
That's a good thing.
Okay. So the boat is safe. And so I know you have some safety issues or safety concerns that you want to make sure that you point out to us.
Well, basically, there have been enough sailing accidents when racing that people have come up with a lot of criteria for what you have to do in order to race in the open ocean like this. And we have all of those things on the boat. They deal with things like man overboard, crew safety in terms of safety, first aid equipment, being able to obtain help if you need rescue with a radio that's specially built for that. And of course, we'll have that NOSA tracker that will tell everybody where we are. And what I'll do is I'll show you some of those items on the boat.
Okay. Well, then let's get to it. We'll have you show us the stuff on the boat.
One of the important things about ocean racing like we're doing is making sure that people stay on the boat and safe. And I'm going to demonstrate some of the things that help us do that. One of the simplest things you can do is to wear a personal flotation device. Now, this one is one that's not inflated until it touches the water or until I pull a cord here. And then it blows up due to a CO2 cartridge in it. The nice thing about this is that if I fall in the water and I'm incapacitated, there is an automatic inflator that when it senses the seawater will blow it up. Now, that's one important thing to have because you don't want to be in the water without one of these on, especially at night. Now, one of the other things you do to keep people on the boat is to tether them down, and what I'm going to do is to hook a tether up to the harness that's incorporated in this. And then what I can do is to connect this to something called a jack line. This is the jack line right here, this black line. And if I want to walk the deck, I walk the deck with this connected to the jack line, and this keeps me connected to the boat. Now, I may fall overboard if I'm on the wrong side and the jack line is there, but it will keep me connected, and that's one of the important things.
Good.
Now, in the event that a person doesn't stay connected for one reason or another, and does happen to go overboard, there's an item over here that's called a Dan buoy. What this is you throw it in the water, it automatically inflates and turns into a man overboard pole with a flag and a light that's on it.
Okay. Well, that's kind of like when you're water
You
skiing.
keep track of where that man overboard went. Now, the other thing about man overboard is that there is a global positioning system device here that has an MOB button on it. If a person goes overboard, you push that button, it automatically records the coordinates of that person who went overboard. Now, if we do have a person going overboard and have to rescue him, back of the boat has something called a life sling, which we trail in the water. The person connects himself up to the life sling. We pull him to the boat, put a block and tackle on it, and pull him out of the water like a big catch. So those are the things that really...
That sounds awful.
These are the things that are very important when you're racing, especially at night, where people can get lost in the water and very difficult to find.
Exactly.
Now,
Okay, good.
We also have a special radio on this boat that has distress calling. We just push a red button, and we automatically transmit a distress call with our GPS coordinates that can be picked up by the Coast Guard and other boats in the race. So that's an important thing if the boat happens to be sinking and you'll have to jump in the water.
All right, well, that won't be happening today.
That won't be happening today.
Okay, so Lloyd just gave us a rundown on safety, so we think we're set for our sailing today. So come along with us, and we're heading out.